Adrian Vale got into a car accident on his way to a business trip and lost part of his memory. The ridiculous part was that he remembered everyone except me, the wife he had once claimed through sheer, ruthless obsession. "Are you really asking me for a divorce?" I asked calmly, looking at Adrian as he reclined in the hospital bed, still unfairly striking even with a mild concussion. To be honest, half the reason I had caved back then was his face. He had those cold, aristocratic features, deep-set eyes that held a permanent chill, and a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. Everything about him gave off the kind of power and distance that told strangers not to come too close. Even half-sitting in a hospital bed, his broad shoulders and lean frame commanded the room. He was a study in expensive restraint and raw power. Unfortunately, his methods of pursuing someone had been a complete disaster. "Yes," he said.
"Great."
Now he was as stingy with words with me as he was with everyone else. My raised brows were hidden behind oversized sunglasses, and the amused curve of my mouth was covered by my mask. I sat in the chair about 3 feet from his bed, arms folded across my chest. "You won't regret it?" "No. You don't want to ask Miles first?" "My personal affairs are not up to anyone else." He flipped through the document folder he had brought for the trip, without even looking up. Fine. There was no point in trying to talk sense into a man hell-bent on his own destruction. "Adrian, you had better pray you never remembered me. When that day came, you had no right to say I had been heartless or that I had never given you a chance." "All right," I said. "When do you want to file?" He finally looked up at me, as if he had not expected me to agree so quickly. "I'll have Miles draft the divorce papers first. Once you review them and sign, we'll proceed." "Fine. Just have Miles contact me directly." With that, I stood, picked up my bag from the table, and left the hospital room without hesitation. Behind me, the only sound left was the quiet rustle of papers. A few minutes later, Miles Quinn rushed into the room, sweating through his dress shirt. "Mr. Vale, are you all right? Wait, you're alone?" "Mrs. Vale isn't here." After receiving Vivian's call about Adrian's accident, Miles had dropped everything to get here. "She just left," Adrian said. "Left." Adrian caught the disbelief in his tone and finally looked toward the doorway. "You're surprised?"
"No."
"No, of course not. I just didn't expect you to let Mrs. Vale leave first." Miles quickly changed the subject. "Why couldn't I reach your phone? Were you injured anywhere else?" "My phone was smashed. Mild concussion. I'll call someone to repair it right away." Miles had already pulled out his phone when Adrian stopped him. "Have a new one delivered. Throw the old one away." Miles froze. For a split second, he seriously wondered if that concussion had actually scrambled Adrian's brain. He had become an idiot. Normally, Adrian guarded that phone like it contained state secrets. Now he wanted to toss it? "And one more thing," Adrian said. "Draft a divorce agreement for me." Miles had Adrian's damaged phone in one hand and was using the other to text Vivian, desperate to understand what had happened. The message had barely gone out when Adrian's words hit him. Out of pure reflex, Miles answered, "Of course." Then the meaning finally sank in. His head snapped up. Prepare it for whom?" Adrian frowned, his voice sharpening with impatience. "Who else do you work for besides me?" "No one," Miles said quickly. "No one." Miles was too intimidated by Adrian's presence to say another word. All he could do was silently pray that Vivian would reply to his text soon. "Enough. Organize the work documents and send them to me." Adrian lifted a hand and pressed his fingers against his throbbing temple. For some reason, a ghost of a memory kept tugging at him, a persistent itch he couldn't scratch. "Yes, Mr. Vale. I'll step out now." Miles fled the hospital room as if escaping a fire, wiping cold sweat from his forehead. This was strange. Too strange. Had Adrian and Vivian fought? That couldn't be right after everything Adrian had done just to marry her. Now he was willing to divorce her? Miles could not make sense of it. In the end, he could only deliver the new phone to the hospital room, then leave to prepare the work documents Adrian had asked for. And the divorce papers. Meanwhile, when I got home, I found my phone blowing up with texts from Miles. He was the one who asked for the divorce. Miles. Did you two have a fight? Me. No. Miles. Is Mr. Vale's head okay? I mean, is the concussion serious? Me. Wasn't it just a mild concussion? Miles. Are you two really getting divorced? Me. Yes. Send me the divorce papers once they're ready. I watched the three dots next to Miles's profile picture bounce on the screen for a long time before they disappeared. Me. By the way, his phone was damaged. Remember to get it fixed. Miles. Mr. Vale told me to buy him a new one. I let out a short laugh. Me. Fine. For the next few days, I lived independently and freely. It was nice. Very comfortable. Then I told my agent, Natalie Reed, that I wanted to start acting again. Natalie was one of the few people who knew Adrian and I were married. When she heard the news, she asked in shock how Adrian had possibly agreed to let me out of his sight. Me. He wants to divorce me. Obviously, I have to go make money to support myself. Natalie. Natalie. Did you cheat on him? Wait, no. Even if you cheated, I doubt that man would be willing to divorce you. What the hell did you do? Me. I didn't do anything. He asked for it himself. Natalie. Is there something wrong with his brain? I understood why everyone had the same reaction. Because they all knew what Adrian had done to win me over. They knew how much he liked me. How much he loved me. Me. Who knows? We'll probably file in a few days. Natalie. All right. I'll see what's casting. Maybe a reality gig to get your face back out there? Me. Thanks. I set my phone down and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The woman in the reflection had honey blonde waves falling loosely over her shoulders and warm, sun-kissed skin that glowed with health. Her features were defined, her cheekbones slightly high, and her deep green eyes looked lazy and alluring, with an ease and elegance that seemed to come from her bones. After years of being married to Adrian, I really had been spoiled into something brighter and more dazzling. So dazzling that everyone knew how much he loved me, everyone except him. Adrian had skipped the recovery time at home and moved straight into the penthouse suite at his headquarters. A knock came at the door. Adrian stopped working, rubbed his brow, and felt the restlessness in his chest grow sharper. Come in. Miles walked in with a document and took a careful step back. Mr. Vale, these are the divorce papers. Please take a look when you have a moment. Adrian truly felt that the person whose brain had been damaged in the car accident was Miles. For the past few days, Miles had been hovering around him, looking like he wanted to speak, but did not dare. I'll read them later. When Adrian noticed that Miles still had not left, he took off his glasses. Something else? There he went again. Speak. If you don't say it now, don't ever say it. Yes. Are you really divorcing Mrs. Vale, Mr. Vale? This is what you've been trying to say for days. Yes. Yes. Adrian snapped, the inexplicable ball of tension in his gut tightening. If there's nothing else, get out. One more thing. Do Mr. and Mrs. Vale know? Adrian turned and looked straight at him. This is my business. Get out. Yes, sir. Adrian was starting to think Miles was hopelessly stupid. That woman was probably some political marriage arranged by his parents, though he had no idea why he had agreed to it. If his parents found out, wouldn't that make the divorce impossible? Absolutely hopeless. That afternoon, Miles received a message from Adrian telling him to come to the executive office. Miles was at the end of his rope. He could not decide whether to advise him or keep his mouth shut. Mr. Vale. I've reviewed the divorce agreement. It's acceptable. Send it to her first. Mr. Vale. Mrs. Vale said, she'll sign no matter what the terms are. If you're satisfied with it, you can sign first and have it delivered to her. Adrian frowned, his pen hovering inches from the signature line. He lifted his hand to his chest and forced down the nausea rising in his throat, along with a sudden, inexplicable jolt of panic in his heart. Seeing Adrian's reaction, Miles thought his boss had finally started to regret asking Vivian for a divorce. He hurried to say, I'll contact Mrs. Vale right away and schedule a heart exam for me. What did you just say? After a moment, Adrian looked up at Miles. Nothing. I said yes, of course. Good. Adrian signed the divorce papers. Take them to her. Yes, sir. I received the divorce papers Miles sent over. Me? Looks fine, but I'm not at Vale House right now. Miles. You left town? Me. Yes. I'm on set. Miles. You left Cedar Bay? Did you tell Mr. Vale? Isn't he still at the office? Me. We're getting divorced. Did you really expect me to check in with him? Miles. Please stay safe. Me. I will. I'll ping you when I'm back to sign the physical copies. Miles. Understood. I put down my phone, and a gentle male voice sounded beside me. What's wrong? Was someone looking for you? I picked up a glass of juice. No, beside us. Derek Walsh, one of the producers, cut in drunkenly. Oh, come on. What are you two whispering about? I was rooting for you 2 years ago, you know. Shame Vivian stepped away from the industry back then. As he spoke, he staggered closer to us. But now this is great. I never thought you'd make a comeback, Vivian, let alone join our dating show. Ha! I rolled my eyes inwardly. If your production hadn't offered the biggest paycheck, who would be here? Yes. I had joined a dating reality show. Strictly speaking, I was not single yet, but I would be soon enough. There was nothing to feel guilty about. I had barely arrived in Cedar Bay to meet the producer and showrunner when Miles texted me, which had made me think Adrian had regained his memory. The show also happened to have Sebastian Hale, my old rumored love interest from the entertainment industry. But Miles did not need to know that. Seeing Sebastian surprised me too. He had evolved into a serious Oscar contender. I hadn't expected someone of his caliber to stoop to a reality ratings grab. After dinner wrapped, I returned to the hotel, showered, and picked up my phone. There was a message from Adrian. Adrian, is there anything in the divorce agreement you're unhappy with? Me. No. Adrian. Miles said you haven't signed. Me. I'm not home right now. Adrian stared at that line of text, his thoughts stalling for a moment. When he snapped back to himself, he saw the words he had typed without thinking. Where are you? Why did you go out by yourself? Adrian's brows tightened. He pressed his palm against his chest, where his heart was thundering in a way that felt dangerously like a panic attack. Then he deleted everything in the message box and typed again. Adrian, don't forget to sign when you get back. Me? Okay. Adrian stared at the conversation after no more messages came through. He felt like a fish thrown out of water. His breathing grew shallow, and the unease in his chest kept twisting tighter. He opened his chat with Miles. Adrian, find a time and schedule a heart exam for me as soon as possible. Miles had no idea what kind of madness had taken hold of his boss. All he knew was that ever since he had told Adrian that Vivian was MIA, the CEO had been acting like a live wire. One moment, the air around him felt warm enough to stand in. The next, it plunged straight into freezing hell. Miles truly thought he was a dedicated executive assistant. Miles. Got it. The medical examination is scheduled for the next morning. Adrian's long, powerful fingers held the medical report. He read it twice, faintly incredulous. There's nothing wrong? Yes, Mr. Vale, Dr. Harris said respectfully. Your heart is in excellent condition. Top-tier cardiovascular health. Then the doctor added, have you been experiencing any symptoms? Adrian was silent for a moment. Then he stood and left. No. Miles was waiting in the car outside the hospital. Mr. Vale, are you all right? Adrian stared out the window, his profile a mask of icy indifference. I'm fine. Yes. Of course. Miles quickly turned back around, and the car slowly pulled away. Has she signed? Mrs. Vale said filming will take about a week. She should be home tomorrow afternoon. You seem well informed. The words came out with a trace of jealousy before Adrian even realized it. Then the car braked suddenly, making him jolt forward. What? Is that Mrs. Vale? Before Adrian could question him, Miles's startled voice cut him off. Adrian adjusted his suit at an unhurried pace before finally lifting his eyes to look out the window. Where? Miles was speechless. Didn't he say he didn't love her? Then why bother fixing his appearance first? Maybe I was mistaken. Then drive. Adrian felt that a large part of his headache was caused by Miles. Yes, sir. Miles. Mrs. Vale, are you back? Me? Yes. How did you know? I thought Adrian had stopped tracking my GPS. Miles. Mr. Vale, and I saw you on the road. Me. What did he say? Miles. Mr. Vale didn't see you. Me. Okay. Don't forget to bring me the divorce papers tomorrow. Miles. Understood. Mr. Vale, Mrs. Vale is back home. Adrian did not even lift his head. His tone was cold. Did I ask? Also, Mrs. Vale asked me to bring the divorce papers tomorrow afternoon, so she can sign them. There it was again. That inexplicable rush of panic and irritation. It felt as if something vital was being ripped out of his chest. Adrian pressed his slightly dry lips together and was startled by the sound of his own voice when he spoke. It was hoarse, rough, restless. She brought it up herself? Miles looked at the man in front of him, who was clearly suffering from the consequences of his own actions. Yes. Tomorrow won't work. I just remembered I have a business trip to Cedar Bay tomorrow. You're coming with me. Tomorrow? Mr. Vale, we don't have... Miles caught the lethal glint in Adrian's eyes, the way his jaw was set like granite. Yes, Miles said immediately. I'll make the arrangements now. I received a message from Miles. They were going on a business trip, so he would not be able to deliver the divorce papers, would have to wait. Me. Will it take long? I have to travel again in a few days, too. Miles. Not sure yet. How long will you be gone this time, Mrs. Vale? Me. A week. Me. Never mind. We'll deal with it later. I thought neither of us would have time to handle the divorce anytime soon. I did not expect to run straight into them a few days later. Looking at Miles standing in front of me, I rubbed my forehead. Why are you here? Miles looked just as blindsided. Running into me mid-dinner was clearly not on his itinerary. Mr. Vale and I are here on business. I didn't realize you were also working in Cedar Bay. Adrian is here too? Mr. Vale has already gone back to the hotel. I came out to arrange the logistics. Perfect. Did you bring the divorce papers? Before Miles could answer, footsteps echoed down the hall. A tall, slender figure stepped out of the shadows. Someone you know, Vivian? Sebastian brushed past me, his presence a silent barrier between me and the suit. It was a classic protective move. Yes, I said. Why did you come out? You were gone for a while. I got worried. Sebastian gave me a look that was all soft edges and warmth. Sebastian Hale? Miles blurted in surprise. You know me? Sebastian asked, giving Miles a cool, once-over. You're an award-winning actor. Who doesn't know you? I cut in. Come on, let's go back. I turned on my heel, heading back to the lounge. Sebastian gave Miles one more look but said nothing. Then he followed me back inside. The next day, after Miles finished reporting work updates, Adrian noticed his assistant lingering like a bad smell. What else? I ran into Mrs. Vale last night. Adrian took off his glasses and rubbed his brow. Miles could not see his expression clearly, which meant he had no way of guessing what Adrian was thinking. Then Adrian's low, magnetic voice sliced through the silence, laced with a trace of something lethal. Was she alone? No. Hearing the displeasure in his tone, Miles went for broke. She was with Sebastian Hale. The hand rubbing Adrian's brow paused. His voice carried a jealousy he did not even recognize. Sebastian Hale? Miles looked like he wanted to phase through the floor. Why is she in Cedar Bay? Mrs. Vale is filming. Adrian had not expected the political marriage his old-fashioned parents had arranged for him to be someone from the entertainment industry. Mrs. Vale also said what? She said she wanted me to bring the divorce papers to her. Adrian lifted his eyes to Miles. His brows rose slightly, and his dark gaze narrowed, cold and fathomless, sharp enough to cut through ice. You brought divorce papers on a business trip? I did. I didn't. Miles truly hated that he was not a mind reader. Every day with Adrian had become a guessing game. Fine. If there's nothing else, leave. Yes, sir. For one blessed second, Miles felt like he had survived a natural disaster. Adrian and Miles returned on Wednesday, while I had to keep filming in Cedar Bay until the following Tuesday. The show itself was fairly easy to shoot. Natalie, are you really done with him? Me. I'm on this kind of show. What do you think? Natalie. Good. Otherwise, I was honestly afraid that man would regret it and come after me. Later, Natalie would realize her luck was about to run out, because whatever she feared had a way of happening. The dating show was filmed and released almost episode by episode. As soon as the second episode finished filming, the first episode aired. Since this was Sebastian's first time appearing on a dating show, the buzz was enormous. Naturally, I became the most talked about woman on the internet. Bad press was still press. Natalie, the trolls are eating you alive. Is that man seriously doing nothing? Me. Sebastian interacts with me a lot. Of course people are attacking me. Natalie, what is Sebastian even doing? Why wouldn't a list actor randomly join a dating show? Me. Probably heard I was getting divorced. Natalie, he still hasn't given up? Me. Looks like it. Natalie, and that man is just letting Sebastian get close to you? That doesn't sound right. I thought of all the things Adrian had once done to keep Sebastian out of my orbit, and I couldn't help a smirk. Adrian, I truly could not wait to see your face when reality finally hits you. That weekend, Adrian returned to the Vale family estate. Why isn't Vivian with you? Eleanor was already surprised the moment she saw Adrian walk in alone. Her son had actually been willing to leave Vivian's side. Adrian handed his coat to the butler and tugged at his tie. She had something to do. And you didn't go with her? What is she, a child? Does she need me to follow her? Everywhere. Richard, who had just taken a sip of water, choked so hard his expression became impossible to read. Cough, cough. Eleanor patted Richard's back while staring at Adrian as if she were a complete stranger. Dad, are you all right? Richard lowered his head and coughed a few more times, then waved a hand slowly. Mom, why are you looking at me like that? Adrian asked. Is your head okay? Didn't I tell Miles not to tell you? Tell us what? Miles didn't say anything. Then how did you know I injured my head? Excuse me? Eleanor immediately pushed Richard aside. Hey, Richard looked at his wife's usual fire and shook his head with a fond smile. Eleanor sat down beside Adrian and began turning his head this way and that to inspect him. You hurt your head? When? Why didn't you tell us? How bad was it? Mom. Adrian stilled her and let out a soft sigh. If you keep shaking me, I'm going to actually have a problem. All right, I won't shake you. Now tell me what happened. There was a car accident on the way to a business trip. It was only a mild concussion. No external injuries. Oh. The moment Eleanor heard it was nothing serious, she backed off. So, did you and Vivian fight? No. Did Vivian dump you? Adrian lifted a brow and said in an unhurried tone, Do you think I'm clingy? Eleanor's expression turned indescribable. After everything you did before, how do you have the nerve to ask that? Before Eleanor could say anything, Adrian dropped another bomb. By the way, I'm planning to divorce her. What? Eleanor and Richard stared at Adrian in utter disbelief. Who? Who is getting a divorce? How many people am I married to? Son, Eleanor said slowly. Maybe we should take you for an MRI. I don't think this is just a mild concussion. You may have turned stupid, Richard added. Adrian frowned, his confusion mounting. Why does everyone react like this when they hear, I want a divorce? You're all so surprised. Are we not allowed to be shocked? I'm only divorcing a political marriage, someone I don't love. I assumed you would have expected it eventually. Richard and Eleanor were both speechless. A political marriage? What was he even talking about? The two of them exchanged a look. Do you have any other symptoms besides the concussion? No. Impossible, Eleanor said. If you think Vivian was some match we arranged for you, your brain is definitely fried. Wasn't she someone you introduced to me? Both of his parents went dead quiet. Do you think our family needs to sell you off to the highest bidder? Richard asked. For once, Adrian had no answer. Wait, Eleanor said suddenly. You don't remember Vivian? You lost your memory? I don't have amnesia. I just don't remember her. You only forgot her? Yes. She's irrelevant. Forgetting her doesn't matter. Richard gave a soft, mocking laugh and sat back down with his tea, the corner of his mouth curling with pure schadenfreude. You. Eleanor looked at Adrian and did not even know where to begin. Did you already tell Vivian you wanted a divorce?
Yes.
I signed the divorce papers too. After hearing that, Eleanor asked only one final question. Did the doctor say this selective amnesia can be reversed?
Yes.
The right stimulus should bring it back. Eleanor turned toward Richard. The two of them shared a smile. Both were waiting to see what their self-destructive son would look like once he finally remembered everything. Miles's right eyelid had been twitching since the moment he woke up. When he saw the entertainment news alert on his phone, he sent up a silent prayer that he wouldn't be summoned to the lion's den. Mr. Vale, you asked for me. Resigned to his fate, Miles pushed open the door to the executive office. What production is she in? There it was. Lord, give me the strength to walk out of this room alive. A reality show. What kind of reality show? Adrian asked coldly. Miles was screaming internally. She's already signed her life away to them. What good is it to ask now? A dating reality show. Miles heard a sharp crack. He looked up at once. Mr. Vale? Mr. Vale, are you all right? Only then did Adrian snap out of his trance. What? Your hand. Mr. Vale, your hand is bleeding. Adrian lowered his gaze. The pen in his hand had been snapped in two. Black ink bled across his palm, staining it a dark, bruised purple as it mixed with crimson. He pulled out a tissue and slowly wiped his hand clean. His face remained expressionless, but the heavy pressure in the air forced Miles to look away. After a long while, Adrian spoke in a perfectly even voice. Pull it up. Just as Miles was about to leave the office, Adrian stopped him. You'll watch it with me. The show began introducing each guest one by one. Which one is she? Who? This time, Miles genuinely did not understand what Adrian meant. Adrian gave him a cold look. My wife. Huh. Miles's head shot up. He stared at Adrian in shock, his jaw hanging open. Adrian's eyes narrowed dangerously. Talk. You don't remember what Mrs. Vale looks like?
No.
Is there anything else you forgot? Everything about her. No wonder. No wonder. Miles felt his soul leave his body. Now everything Adrian had done made sense. Was it because of the accident? Did the doctor not tell you? No. She signed the admission papers and you signed yourself out. She didn't tell you? No. Adrian rubbed his aching temple. Which one is she? Miles took a moment to process the massive data dump, then said quietly, Mrs. Vale hasn't appeared yet. She's third from
last.
Then he could not help adding, Mr. Vale, once you get your memory back, you're going to hate the version of yourself who asked Mrs. Vale for a divorce. Adrian did not even spare him a glance. He only watched the computer screen in silence, waiting for the woman Miles claimed would make him regret everything. The sweet background music and the host's overexcited voice on the screen tested every last shred of Adrian's patience. Finally, the host announced, Now, let's welcome our next female guest. Here she is, Vivian Lane. The camera turned toward the door. A slim, pale arm pushed it open first. Then came black patent, leather heels, delicate ankles, shapely calves, a black silk skirt, and a white lace blouse. At last, the camera slowly moved up to her face. With a loud crash, the water glass on Adrian's desk was swept to the floor. One of his hands clutched at his temple as a blinding pain seared through his brain, but his eyes stayed locked on the woman on the screen. Mr. Vale, are you okay? I'll call a doctor. Miles had barely turned to rush out when Adrian stopped him. Come back. Adrian slowly sat upright. His gaze remained fixed on the screen, and a raw, predatory possessiveness ignited in the depths of his pupils. Mr. Vale, are you feeling better? Miles noticed that look. Did you remember? Adrian lowered his lashes, hiding the emotion in his eyes. No, Miles suddenly understood. Did you just fall for Mrs. Vale again? Again? The first time you met Mrs. Vale, it was love at first sight. After that what? Miles hesitated, weighing his survival odds. Yes, Miles said, bracing himself. After that, You kept chasing Mrs. Vale relentlessly. You even said you'd be content being her side, peace if that was what it took. Me? Her other man? Adrian took a deep breath and silently closed his eyes. Miles noticed that the screen had switched to another guest. A tactical retreat. When the final guest, Sebastian, appeared, Adrian opened them again. That's the man who had dinner with my wife? Oh, so now we're using the W word. How convenient. Miles ranted silently in his head. Yes. The executive office fell into complete silence. Contact the showrunner immediately, Adrian said. I'm going there. Going where? Where do you think? Yes, sir. There is one more thing. I'm not sure whether I should tell you. Say it. Sebastian likes Mrs. Vale. He wanted to mention they'd likely be a power couple by now if Adrian hadn't bulldozed his way into her life. But when he caught Adrian's stare, he quietly swallowed the rest. Adrian tapped his fingers against the desk in a slow, steady rhythm, his jaw tight. I'll be on set for the next shoot. Yes, sir. I looked at Adrian standing in front of me. My expression turned amused, and my tone was deliberately sharp. What? Did you come to deliver the final settlement?
Couldn't.
Wait. I'm here to join the dating show. You're here to what? I grabbed his arm and dragged him to the side. Did you get your memory back? I scanned his face for any sign of the man I knew. No, you haven't. Don't tell me you're doing that whole thing again. My mind went straight back to the way Adrian had pursued me before. You lost your memory, and you still fell in love with me at first sight? Adrian said nothing. He just tracked my every move, his focus absolute and predatory. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and hoarse with something sour. Did you join this show because of him? Who? I glanced around to see whether anyone was watching us, but before I could react, a burning hand cupped my face. His slightly rough thumb brushed over my earlobe. Adrian watched the skin under his fingers slowly turn red, and the hollow ache in his chest finally vanished. Sebastian.
No.
This show pays well, I said. You were the one who wanted to divorce me. Obviously, I had to make money to support myself. Adrian stared, almost dazed, at my lips as they moved. Sweetheart. I lifted my face from his broad palm and looked at him in confusion. Why did you say that exactly like you did before the accident? Did you lose your memory or not?
I did, he said.
This was my fault. I made you suffer. I'm sorry, sweetheart. With his other hand, Adrian wrapped both of mine in his. Come home with me, sweetheart. I already signed a contract. I can't leave. I looked at the 6'3" man in front of me, who was playing the wounded puppy card, and remained completely unmoved. Are you mad at me? He asked. Then we'll stay on the show until you're not mad anymore. Adrian circled both arms around my waist and buried his face in the curve of my neck. That familiar, burning embrace surrounded me again, carrying his clean, chilly scent as he held me tightly, just like he used to.
Wait.
We?
I asked.
What do you mean, we? His slightly hoarse voice came from against my skin. I want to stay with my wife. And that was how we ended up on a national broadcast together.
Why?
Because whenever another male guest got near me, Adrian's face darkened and he stared at the man like he was planning a murder. Sebastian was even worse. If Sebastian tried to talk to me, Adrian would pull me away and refuse to let me make contact. He spent the entire day going nowhere, staying pressed close beside me. Whenever I spoke, he looked at me with those waiting, needy eyes. A 6'3", untouchable CEO who was cold and quiet with everyone else, a man of few words and even fewer expressions, was suddenly clingy, insecure, and totally whipped. When Sebastian came to speak to me again off camera, I walked Adrian over to him. Let me introduce you, I said. This is my husband, Adrian. I thought you were already divorced. Adrian's hand tightened sharply around my waist. Adrian Vale, he said, extending a hand. Vivian's husband. Sebastian Hale, Sebastian replied, taking his hand. You should remember me. His fingers closed around Adrian's. After all, if you hadn't sent someone to slash my tires back then, I would have been the one to save Vivian from that predatory producer. I would have been the one with her. I looked at the two men's forearms, veins standing out under the strain. Well, well. Their fingers were probably going numb by now. I tugged Adrian's arm. He immediately dropped the act and turned to look at me with wounded eyes, as if accusing me of taking Sebastian's side. His entire body seemed wrapped in gloom. Even if you had been the one to save me that day, I said, looking straight at Sebastian, I still wouldn't have been with you. Adrian's mood visibly improved. If he had an invisible tail, it would have been wagging behind him. I didn't know you always thought that, I continued, ignoring the hurt in Sebastian's eyes. I should have told you earlier. I've never liked you. Not before. Not now. Not ever. After thinking for a second, I added, not even if I got divorced. Adrian's imaginary tail immediately drooped again. We're not getting divorced, sweetheart. Adrian silently corrected me in his heart. Using Adrian's power as one of the show's investors, I requested that the third episode not be aired and took the raw footage back. There was no helping it. Adrian's behavior simply could not be made public. If his employees and competitors saw him like this, how was he supposed to maintain any shred of authority? Adrian became exactly like he used to be. He took me everywhere he went. If I truly refused to go, he could only leave me at home with a discreet security team nearby. He still had not regained his memory. But our life had returned to its old rhythm, somehow even sweeter and even more unrestrained than before. One time, while he was away on business, I went to the Vale family estate by myself. Adrian still hasn't remembered? Eleanor asked. No, I said, eating the fruit she had handed me. You really agreed when he said he wanted a divorce? I heard he even signed some final settlement. When is he going to remember? When he does, you have to put those papers right in front of him. Oh, that scene would be priceless. Eleanor's face was alight with mischief. I agreed because I wanted to mess with him a little, I said. The doctor already told me his memory would definitely come back. I looked at Eleanor helplessly. Mom, you and Dad didn't tell him how we got married either? Of course not. Why would we?
He's been so stoic since he was a child.
No fun at all. The only time he ever acted human was when he was chasing you. And even that was only fun for a month. If you ask me, you folded too quickly. And this time, Vivian, you should have teamed up with us. We could have really made him sweat. Eleanor started laughing again when she remembered Adrian announcing that he wanted a divorce. You have no idea. He actually said you were some political marriage we pushed on him. I nearly died laughing. I sighed helplessly and patted her back. He still hasn't remembered. So how did the two of you make up? She asked. He saw me on the show. He fell in love with you at first sight again? I closed my eyes and nodded silently. But I remember the two of you signed something before you got married, didn't you? A prenup, I said, and a total deed of transfer. Just thinking about it made me laugh. After having dinner with Richard and Eleanor, I returned to Vale House. Late that night, I fell into a familiar embrace. Adrian held me tightly from behind, his arms locked around me, his face buried in the curve of my neck. His warm breath ghosted across my skin and sent shivers through me. For a long while, he did nothing. Just as I was drifting back to sleep, scattered kisses fell against the back of my neck. He lifted my chin slightly and kissed his way slowly to my jaw, then to my earlobe. His hot mouth and rough breathing lingered beside my ear. Half asleep, I reached up and touched his face, brushing over the slightly stiff ends of his hair and the warm, smooth skin. Beneath my fingertips. What's wrong? Sweetheart, Adrian said, his voice low. Why did you agree to divorce me? Sweetheart, why did you let Sebastian call you Vivian like that? Why did you let that amnesiac version of me have his way with you? His questions came one after another. Calm interrogation continued, his voice steady even as his, but his touch grew more reckless with every passing second. He was methodically dismantling my defenses. You got your memory back? Tears blurred the corners of my eyes. In the darkness, I looked at the hand covering his own eyes.
Why?
He demanded again, refusing to let the subject drop as he continued his relentless assault on my senses. Slow down, Neither of us slept that night. When I finally drifted toward consciousness the next morning, I found myself pinned down by the heavy arm draped across my waist. Awake. His low, sexy voice came from above me. Adrian was sitting against the headboard, handling work with one arm still wrapped around me. He closed his laptop, took off his glasses, and bent down to kiss my forehead. Hungry? What time is it? A little after 11. I reached out and wrapped my arms around his lean, strong waist. You got your memory back? How? Adrian went quiet, his jaw tightening slightly. He let out a small, resigned sigh. I watched the first episode you filmed. I couldn't help the smirk that tugged at my lips. He lowered his head and kissed my eyelids. You finished the whole thing? Yes. That was enough stimulation to bring your memory back? I muttered under my breath. I thought I'd have to put the signed divorce papers in front of you first. Sweetheart. With a hint of displeasure, he pinched my waist, pulled me flush against him under the covers. You still haven't answered me. What? The question I asked last night. You asked a lot of questions last night. I stroked his hair where his head rested beneath my chin. His muffled voice traveled through my chest. The last one. You and you're the same person, aren't you? Are you seriously jealous of yourself? Adrian didn't answer. He just squeezed me tighter. All right, I said softly. I indulged him because I felt a little guilty for letting things go so far. Was I better, or was he better? For a moment, I genuinely could not understand how Adrian's brain worked. Don't push your luck, baby. Then I want another turn too. Sweetheart, you have to be fair. My breathing turned unsteady. You're doing this on purpose. After Adrian regained his memory, he became even more attached to me. He also kept getting jealous of his amnesiac self. If he could, I would never be more than an inch from his side. Finally, a business partner called him away. Miles brought me a cup of tea. When he lingered by the door, I looked up at him. Something on your mind? Mrs. Vale, there's one thing I've never understood. Back when Mr. Vale drafted the divorce papers, why did you say you'd sign no matter what the terms were? He didn't even know who you were.
Oh, that.
I did not mind telling him. Before we got married, Adrian transferred 80% of the assets under his name to me. The settlement was a joke. Signing it would have just meant him handing me even more of his fortune. Miles's mouth twitched. Then he quietly withdrew. He knew Adrian was hopelessly devoted. He just had not realized Adrian was that hopeless. Adrian had forcefully cleared every obstacle around me, curated every luxury in my life, given me an enormous fortune, married me with unwavering certainty, and loved me without hesitation. Again and again, he fell for me at first sight. And I loved him too. I loved this man who was always burning hot, always intense, always sincere, and permanently on my side. Everyone saw the ruthless CEO taking what he wanted. How did anyone know I had not appeared in front of him on purpose?
Moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, if a billionaire CEO loses his memory and still falls in love with you again at first sight, that is not a husband anymore. That is a software bug. Adrian really woke up with selective amnesia. Who is this woman? Meanwhile, his heart was in the background going, wife detected, touch her and die. And poor Miles spent the entire story fighting for his life. Bro wasn't an assistant anymore. He was a full-time emotional support employee. Also imagine divorcing your wife, then watching her on a dating show, then immediately pulling up actually I'd like to participate too. Sir, that is not healing. That is competitive stalking. And Sebastian? That man survived years just to become the guy Adrian gets jealous over every 15 minutes. Meanwhile, Vivian was out here playing 4D chess the whole time. Oh no, my terrifyingly handsome billionaire husband transferred 80% of his fortune to me and fell in love with me twice. Whatever shall I do? But honestly, the funniest part? Adrian regained all his memories. And his first priority was not, thank God I remember my wife. No, this man said. So which version of me was better? Brother was beefing with his own amnesiac DLC pack. Final lesson. If a man falls in love with you twice, transfers his assets to you, joins a dating show to fight your co-star, and gets jealous of himself, congratulations. You are not in a marriage anymore. You are in a hostage situation sponsored by romance novels.